Cool. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you guys for coming to Let's Chat. Tonight we'll be talking about career development and life after college. So we have lovely GAs that are going to announce themselves. But before we get started, there's food in the back. We will serve the food in about 20-30 minutes. I will let you guys know. So feel free to ask us questions, write some questions down. But without further ado, I'll let you guys introduce yourselves.
Thank you. So my name is Abigail. I'm in the 5-year program here at St. John's. In my 5th year, wrapping up this May, and I'm a graduate assistant in career services.
Hi guys, my name is Katiana. I'm also in my 5-year studying business analytics this year. I graduated as well in May, and I'm also GA in career services.
So we're going to get started with Handshake. You're probably super familiar with Handshake. They send you lots of emails if they don't because you're not registered, so I'm going to encourage you to do that as well. But what is it and why and how should we use it? Basically, it's a platform where you can find not only jobs and internships, you can chat to different alumni, you can chat to peers who are currently working in the job or internship that you may want. It's a great way to also connect to different companies. This is kind of a how-to log into Handshake. Everyone has access to their sign-on. But you go on that little tab there, and then you pull up the pages, etc., etc. You can kind of change your notifications, like what you want to see, and you put in all your data in terms of like your graduation year, GPA, your resume, and the great part is that they start sending things to you, and also it kind of has like a memory. So if you click on one, let's say a government job, it'll send you a lot of different things like that, a lot of different opportunities as well.
Think of it as basically another LinkedIn, but more focused towards college. You're able to connect with employers as well, just the same as LinkedIn. And same thing as like Abby was saying, you're able to see more jobs and opportunities that maybe you wouldn't be able to see. More focused on LinkedIn.
Great, so like what we said here, you can search for jobs and internships, you can create your profile, check out different calendars and events. I also motivate you to look at the events on Handshake because there's so many. I think we even get surprised about how many events there are. They're virtual, in person, and events are a great way to network with people that currently work in your field and also just widen your horizons with different people. You never know, something that you like right now may be like changing in the future, and then you remember an event you went to, like, oh, I spoke to someone in insurance and marketing and the government jobs, and then you stay in contact with those kind of people. You can also, again, submit your resumes and applications, and we have a nifty mobile app, so you can have it on the center of your hand as well.
So now we're going to talk a little bit about Parker Dewey. So if you don't know, Parker Dewey is another resource that is available for everyone via Canvas. It's basically a way that you can take up a micro internship. So they're all paid, they're all remote, and it helps you get a little bit more of experience with working in specific projects. You can work on them on your own pace. It's typically like 30-40 hours. So it's nothing too extensive for you to like have to stop what you're doing for like a whole week to focus on it. And they also give you a pretty long due date as well, so you're able to, like I said, take some time to work on it a little bit more, so you're able to get it done.
And last but not least, Forge. Forge is definitely new to me and Tatiana and a lot of people. They're kind of promoting it heavily right now. But I think the awesome part about Forge is that they're actual business projects that come from actual companies that we're all interested in working in, like the JP Morgans, the Lululemons, the Googles, et cetera, and they upload these projects for students to do. You don't have to apply or submit a resume even. All you have to do is register. It'll tell you that the project is about 3 to 5 hours, for example. Let's use JP Morgan as an example. They'll say software engineering, you're interested in that. You do the project and you get to put it on your resume and LinkedIn and promote it anywhere else that you may be networking yourself. And there's a wide variety of options on our St. John's website. There's the link. But again, it's a way to gain that experience like Parker Dewey. If you're frustrated with internships, like, oh, maybe the one that you want isn't getting back to you, you hop on board and you're still getting experience building your resume for your eventual graduation and career search. And last but not least, we want to, this is how you find Forge. Again, on Canvas, our University Career Services page on Canvas is so helpful. You also find sample resumes, sample cover letters. Should I go to grad school? Why or why not? And again, Forge is there as well. Last but not least, we do have a spring career fair. We have about 50 employers right now. That is on March 30th, so mark your calendars. I would definitely recommend, don't be scared, don't be nervous to speak to these employers. I know it's easier said than done, but all you're really doing is going, introducing yourself and asking questions about what they are up to and seeing if you really fit in their company, if you would see yourself doing that job in the future. So if you haven't been to a career fair, I recommend this one. The fall is generally bigger, so if you want kind of baby step start, this would be really good to go to. And yeah, make sure to register on Handshake.
Well, thank you, Kyle. So before we get to the food, we also have a graduate assistant, my man Marvelous. He's gonna come up and he's gonna talk about his life, pretty much how he got started, where he's going now, and yeah.
I'm good. So quick temperature check. Is everyone here an undergrad? Cool. So my name is Marvelous Abraham. I'm a current graduate assistant of campus activities. I'm in my second year, my last semester. I'm graduating in May. Ready to graduate, I'm ready to be done, happy, move on and all that stuff. I first came to St. John's in 2016, graduated 2020 in the pandemic, and came back a year later to start my graduate studies. As an undergrad, I didn't know what I really wanted to do, so I started off as a finance major. My mom was like, be a finance major. My cousin was one, very successful, was very high up at JP Morgan and all these companies like Morgan Stanley. After that, my first semester, I took a math class or whatever. I was like, I'm good with numbers, but this is something I don't want to do. I don't want to sit behind a cubicle and do all these meetings. I'm a very in-person, active guy. I like to, talk with people. I like to travel. I like to do all these things. So I switched my major to marketing. How many people are marketing majors in this room? As you know, marketing is very diverse. You can do a lot of things with marketing. Marketing can be very in your face, it can be very analytical, or it can really be behind closed doors. For me, I was like, that was a better suit. I'm more of a person that can present, go and speak. I'm also an analytical guy at the end of the day. I love to, break down, I like to see trends, and I like to predict. I'm a natural problem solver, so I wanted to do something that suited me way more as a student. So as I was going through that process, I enjoyed being a marketing major, but then you come to the crossroad. By your junior year, you're probably thinking, I want an internship. How many people in here have done an internship? How did you like it?
I'm still doing it.
You're still doing it? How's it going so far?
It's going really good.
Going well?
Yeah, I like it.
Like it? So if you haven't done an internship, I think an internship is a great opportunity to get exposed to the work field and to figure out what you like and what you don't like. So my first internship through college was with a nonprofit called Build On. So I was doing their marketing analytics for them. Honestly, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and luckily enough, I found a professor that teaches. His name is Timothy Keatingham, and he worked with them for a class project. So by my senior year, I got to work with them twice. Funny enough, I was going to get hired by them, but the pandemic hit. And the pandemic, knocked everything down. So while I was in undergrad, I was also working at a Boys and Girls Club as an athletic director. So, I did that for a year, and I realized, this is not what I want to do. I was only doing it in undergrad only because, you got to put money in your pockets. St. John's don't pay enough. They don't cut the checks. Let's keep it a stack. So, after going through that, I was like, this is not for me. I'm more of a business guy. I've always had that interest, and through that and through different people, I always got to meet higher ups. In my family, I'm not here to gloat or whatever. I've been fortunate enough to meet a lot of people, so I got to talk to the people at the JP Morgans, at the Morgan Stanleys, and I was like, this is my place to be. So I asked myself a very important question: how do I get there? And a lot of times, that's the hardest question we have to ask ourselves. We want to be CEOs, we want to be bosses, we want to do all these things, but we never ask ourselves, how do we get there? A lot of times we want someone else to do it for us, but it's no, you actually got to put in the work. So what I did, I started talking to my peers that are pretty successful right out of graduation. Some of them have high-ranking jobs. So I literally started talking, how did you get here? What did you do to put yourself in this position? A lot of them were I went to grad school, met with professors, got connected, and was and just started networking. So what I did throughout my gap year, I networked with everyone I could. I was calling people, I was harassing, I was stalking, I was sending emails. Like, I have to keep it a stack with you guys and be honest, because it's just like, I know where I want to go to in life, and I was like, I'm going to do it at any cost. So even like being a GA, I knew I wanted to work for Ebony Calvin, but it was like, how do I put myself in the position to get there? So, I applied, did that, went through the interview process, and now I'm here. So through that, that's part of my story. And, last year I did an internship with Nationwide. So I'm an ERM major for grad school. Nationwide is a very big insurance company. Like, everyone knows this corny jingle. Like, when you get to the office, like, everyone hates that thing. So it's funny, when I told people I'm working for Nationwide, they were like, Nationwide is on your side? I was like, please stop. So I did an internship with Surety and Insurance. So Surety pretty much is like, I'm looking at the bonds and I'm approving it or denying it based on like, if a company can afford it, if a company is good enough, if a company has the capacity to do all these things. So did I like the internship? Yes, but I realized like doing insurance, it's fun, but it's also boring at the same time. I loved when we went to the corporate dinners and the lunches and we were outside doing all these trips, going to baseball games, eating the STK and all that stuff. But when I was in the office, I was miserable. I was very miserable because I was like, once I understood the job, it got very boring. I like a good challenge. This is why I also love campus activities and event planning, because there's always a problem. And like, that's how my brain works. I like to be beneficial. Being behind the thing, I can present, I can talk, I can do all these things, but it was just like, it got boring. I was like, I know I'm not gonna see myself here in the next 10 years. Granted, I did get a job offer for them after, but I was like, I knew like, yeah, cool, I don't really need this. But I also maintained my connection. So one of the guys who works at Nationwide, his name is Mark Bergman. He sits on the board of trustees. Me and him became very good friends. And till this day, this man still calls me till this day. You wanna get lunch? You wanna fly out to this event? You wanna do that? And I always say yes, only because like I like to maintain that relationship. But honestly, like 2 weeks ago, I sat down with him, I was like, look, I don't wanna work for Nationwide. I actually accepted another offer. He was heartbroken in the moment, but he understood. He was like, go chase your dream. So now I went through the process last semester of going through many different interviews. I applied for EY, Deloitte, all these other companies. All got offers, but the one I ended up going with was Protiviti. So in the fall, or in May, I will be starting with Protiviti. Protiviti, like the introduction of what they did, like they really made me feel like I belonged. Like when they flew me out to the office, they knew my name. I was like, oh snap. Like I've never met some of these people, but they knew my name. And it was really, really cool. I was like, okay, this is the place I want to be. I'll be traveling. It's not like I have to sit on my behind for like 9 to 5 doing nothing. It's really like you get to build your own career and build your own success. On top of that, I'm also looking for side hustles. I like to do events outside of this. So my journey, through college, it was like kind of atypical because I really, didn't want to do an internship, but like I forced myself. But also like my big thing is always networking. If you can network and talk to people and just open your mouth, even if it's for 5 minutes, I promise you, like, it will take you a long way. The only reason why I'm here and sitting in this place is because I talk to people. I talk to Dr. H, I talk to the Ebbs of the world, I talk to different corporate leaders, like, even like if there's an event on campus. One thing about St. John's, there's always an event. My math professor had an event and there was all these CEOs. And sometimes you gotta humble yourself. Sometimes you're like, I don't wanna talk, or sometimes you're shy. I get it. Sometimes I get nervous too when I talk to people, believe it or not. But sometimes you gotta get out of yourself and really think about your vision and where you wanna go in life. Have that conversation, and I promise you, it'll take you a long way. Sometimes I'm still getting calls from different jobs saying, we wanna bring you on board. And I'm just like, LOL. Like, I hear you, but I already selected what I wanted to do. Like just the other day, a woman at Willis Tower, it's an insurance company, literally called me. She's like, Mark, I'll throw you $90K right now if you come on board in March. And I was like, look, I respect you, but I was like, I do not want to be doing underwriting right now. Underwriting is cool. Like, no knock on underwriting. If you're good at it, once you get the hang of it, I promise you, it's an easy job. And it's way more fun than doing claims. But I was like, for what I want to do, I'd rather go the consulting route than doing the underwriting and insurance route. So this is kind of my journey right now. I'll be honest with you guys, I'm also looking for a second job as well because I like to chase the bag. Like I believe in having multiple sources of income. And I'm fortunate to work remote. So because I'm able to work remote, I can pick up another job and do that. So if you guys have any questions about like my process or your process, Feel free to ask right now. Any questions, concerns? Yes.
I guess like how would you go about getting a job on campus or like through St. John's if you wanted that?
On campus, first and foremost, go on the website. When you type in St. John's jobs or whatever like that, literally it will take you to a link where it says a whole bunch of jobs. Work study, non-work study. Even if you're trying to be a graduate assistant, type in www.St. John's graduate assistants or graduate assistantships. Literally, it will bring you to a page, and it will show you the process on how to become a graduate assistant. And you know, I would say like, once you know you figure out what you want to do, email the director of the department. Show up. Showing face is very important. Once someone can put a face to the resume and all that stuff and see you little by little, they'll get to know you more. You start having conversations. Like, you really gotta humble yourself. Like, one thing, like one of my mentors told me, you gotta sit at the feet of the people that you wanna be at and go above with. So, with Ebony, like, I'm at Ebony my freshman year. I remember having a conversation with her my sophomore year, and it stuck with me for the rest of my life on how to be successful out of event planning. Because of that, I was like, I'm gonna be her graduate assistant. Same thing with like another company I work for. I was like, you know what? Like, I want to get better at this. How do I do that? I was with my supervisor 24/7, asking all types of questions. Asking like dumb questions, smart questions, radical questions. Like, I was asking everything under the sun. And that made me a better, you know, employee and a better person. And it also helped me shape my goals and my dreams. Yes.
What was your experience with career services throughout your process?
It was actually really good. Career services was actually very helpful. And Tobin, you know, I don't know if every college has their own like graduate like advisor or job advisor. You know, I had a pretty decent resume, and you know, I saw an email one day saying, email Jody, then after she will help you fix your resume. Literally, me and Jody had 3-4 sessions, and she was like, you have a great resume, but let's clean this up and make it better. Career Services literally took the time, and we literally went through the process of you know, cleaning up my resume so it looked really, really perfect. So companies would be like, oh, this candidate stands out. Even at that, handshake. We were on handshake for a minute, you know, like searching for internships, looking at different jobs, what I wanted to do, what I didn't want to do. And Jody took the time to work with me. So if you guys are looking for help, you know, in that area, reach out to anyone in your college to, you know, to actually sit down, help you work out your resume, help you look at jobs. Like some people like, and so we have a lot of professors that know people. They will literally put you on. I take this guy named Paul Walker. He literally has introduced me to so many different people in such a short time. So you take advantage of your professors, take advantage of like career services. They know people. Believe it or not, like St. John's is very, very connected. That's one thing I will always tell people. I didn't know how many alumni came from St. John's, maybe the undergrad or the master's program. People know people. Get to know people, and I promise you they will take you places. Any other questions?
I'll even piggyback as well. So when it comes to applying to jobs, right? Like, I'm gonna call people. Kirk, starting with you. Like, what would be your process? So like, let's say you see a job on LinkedIn or Handshake. Do you just apply or like just off random? And if you just apply, what is your steps? Or just wait on a response? Like, walk me through that process for you.
Well, something that Bob Willet, who in career services, told me to do is to make sure that I'm following the account before I apply.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I do. I also apply, I just send in my resume, do whatever steps it tells me to do. I send a follow-up email, etc.
Yeah, so super important. So one thing I learned, like when it comes to applying to jobs, is before that job you want to apply to, figure out if it's on LinkedIn or on Handshake, but especially on LinkedIn, right? Like figure out if you can find that employer's name, right? Figure out if you can do any type of research, you can find an employer or the talent acquisition. Because those people, like a talent acquisition, their little job, they get paid to hire people. So if you can find, let's say you try to work for Disney, right? If you can find a talent acquisition person from Disney, before you want to apply to that Disney internship, that Disney job, whatever, reach out to them. Hey, my name is Jordan. I saw this Disney position. I would love to set up a virtual meeting to talk about position. That way, right, you're now building what we call rapport. These days, it's not really about you more so being qualified. It's honestly about you knowing the person, right? It's more so about your network. Do these people know you? Can they speak on Jordan's behalf? Can they vouch for you? So it's super important, right? Because at the end of the day, when you're applying jobs, it's you versus the other hundreds of people that are applying, right? So it's what is going to separate you from the other, 99 applicants that are applying for the job. So the first thing I would tell people is make sure you guys can find the talent acquisition or the actual hire. Their second thing is what can you do in the moment? So let's say you're working for, let's say you're working for St. John's, right? You're a president of an org, and you want to become a graduate assistant for campus activities, for example, right? So you have a goal of what you want to do in mind. Now, how can you leverage your current position to get to a higher position? So what does that mean? What can you do extra? Is it coming to programs? Is it helping out? Is it literally going to the boss and spending time with that boss, becoming familiar? These are all like the small little things to kind of help you get to that next level. And the third thing is network, right? Networking is coming stuff like this. Coming to networking events. Take all advantage. They spoke about career service fair, right? Like taking any type of advantage of what is being offered. Those are the three things I would say is super important about getting a job. Because again, it's you versus the other, applicant pool. So how are you going to separate yourself from the other applicants? So those are some little tips I would say.
And just to add on to that, and I'm gonna get to you. Also do research. Research is key. If you if you're looking at a job, look at their mission and what they're about. After you do that, I would say, then you reach out and be like, look, I see this job, I'm interested in this field, I'm studying X, Y, and Z. I also seen on your website that you guys are very passionate about diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm very big on that, and I'm looking for a place where I can fit in and support diversity, equity, and inclusion. Talk to those people, but knowing your research is very, very important. Because I promise you, the person next to you has done their research and knows a lot more than you. And also, when you're doing your research, it's also talking to people. Let's say I've been fortunate enough, I know people in certain companies. I really talk to them for hours. I set up meetings. I'm like, look, how's the day-to-day life? Like, even when you do the interview, how's your day-to-day process? What are the highs and lows? What would you change about working here? Then you have all this information, so when you do talk to a talent recruiter or talk to an employer, you can spit this stuff out like, hey, I know, if you add me to this job, I know I can add this and be valuable. All jobs are looking for people who are going to be valuable and be an asset. If you're not an asset, you're a liability. If you're a liability, you're gone. So always do your research and put yourself in a position to, stand out.
You have a question back there?
Yes, basically answer my question, but what exactly should you research? Because I know you can go on the website and all their social media, but you need to go super in depth because I know that people will take time to look up a lot of jobs. So it's how far in depth should you go?
Got you. So luckily enough, most corporate jobs, they have when you look at the job position, they also have a whole section on what the job is. So if you can read up on that, and because when they interview you, they will ask you about stuff on the website. Part of my interview with Protiviti, they were asking me stuff based off the website. And because I read it beforehand, I was able to spit it out like I knew I was working there already. So I would say, look at the job description, explore the page, get lost, get crazy in the page, research it, take your notes, understand it, read it like you're reading a Bible. Understand it front and back.
I would just also add something that is underrated is actually customizing your resume and your cover letter for the position. And as someone who's hired or been in a hiring position multiple times, I receive hundreds of applications on a regular basis. And you will be surprised at how many people send you a generic resume without even understanding what the job description is. So you're automatically not going to be considered as a candidate because you didn't customize your resume for the position. So definitely take a look at that job description, look at your resume, customize it for that job, and address that hiring manager or talent agent when you actually send in the information, and you have a better chance of actually getting an interview. And then when you get the interview, make sure you have at least 3 questions, okay? You don't have to overdo it, but it should be solid questions that actually allow the interviewer to know that you're really interested in this position and that you want to be hired. People ask things like, well, what are you looking for in a candidate? That's very generic. They told you in the job description. Go a little bit deeper with your questions, like what does the day-to-day operation look like for this position? What makes this person, or what in this role will make this person successful? Ask questions that actually will allow you to respond, oh, I have experience doing A, B, and C in my former position or in this role. So those are things that will definitely help you either get the interview and actually secure the job.
and I can just read you like what Protiviti, this is what I asked the guy. What made you choose Protiviti and why are you still there? What does your day-to-day look like? What are your highs and your lows? If there was 5 things you could change about this job, what would you change? Are there any areas of advice that you have for me so I can grow and excel as a future employee? And those are just 4 or 5 questions I just asked, and I feel like those questions actually set me apart. Because there was one guy, he goes to St. John's as well. He was applying for the exact same position. It's funny, I got the call we both got the call the same day. I got the job, he got denied the job. And when I asked why I got the job, he said my question set me apart.
Yeah. I'll ask another question. How many of us want to graduate and make, let's say, over 6 figures? Oh, you guys want to make 6 figures? Oh, okay. Well, I see your hands better be up.
That's what I'm saying.
All right, so it's super, super important, right? So when you guys are looking at the jobs, right, especially on Handshake on LinkedIn, right, look at the salary range, right? Figure out, okay, how much is the job paying? But it doesn't stop there. So once you get an interview, right, and allow you to ask questions, figure out, okay, I see the salary range between $80,000 and $95,000. Can I ask, what can I do to qualify myself for that higher salary? That's super important because what happens is you take a job, let's say the salary range from $80,000 to $95,000, and you just say, well, I want 80. Well, guess what? They're gonna give you 80. So it's like, if you want to get more, you kind of have to fight for more. And negotiation is a thing. I tell people all the time, do not ever take the first offer that a job gives you number-wise. If a job offers you 85,000, how can I become 90? How can I become 95? Oh, you offered me 85, well, did you also know I have a nonprofit that speaks to this? Do you also know I'm in grad school and I have a master's? Do you also know these certain things? These are super important because companies, at the end of the day, are into making money. So what are numerous ways to make money? Reducing expenses. Reducing expenses helps the company have more cash flow. So if you don't ask for more money, a company is not going to give it to you. So it's super, super important to figure out that salary range, and when you're in them questions, figure out how can you get more money, because what that does to an employer is, okay, this person, they're interested. They want to figure out how can they get more value for more compensation. Because then that lets them know that they're able to compensate you would directly work harder in that job, which would then bring them more money. And then I'll also say is, we kind of talk about this, but use your resources, right? A lot of our teachers are not just solely teachers. They have other jobs. So ask your teachers, right? Wait, what's your other job? Get to know your teachers, because a lot of times too, your teachers can literally plug you into a job. Your department head can plug you into your job. It's gonna be super, super important that your close network, you're gonna be able to leverage them, because that's how you're gonna be able to move up. It's gonna be super hard these days just to be applying to a job just with a cold resume. It's gonna be, who do you know, who can back you? And there's other tips that I've learned is endorsements, especially on LinkedIn. You wanna have at least 4 endorsements, right? So that means from an employer, a teacher, anyone with any type of credibility. You want them to endorse you on their page. So yes, I worked with Jordan in 2018, 2020. He was a great kid. He worked super hard. He excelled in blah, 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 blah. Because what also happens, right, when an employer or in talent acquisitions are looking at your LinkedIn page, your Handshake page, they're not just looking at your resume, they're looking at your holistic overview. So they want to see, what are you involved in, right? What extracurriculars are you involved in? What are people saying about you? That all comes into the overall picture. So you want to make sure as a candidate, you're just holistically good, right? You're not just a good worker. Because if you can work hard, but you're not able to get along with people, it's not going to work. Or if you're able to get along with people, but you have a poor work ethic, it's not going to work. So these are some tips and tricks that's going to help you guys as you guys maneuver. If you're not a senior, right, if you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, you guys hear about all the time, but like internships is super important. The earlier you can start, the better. When you get an internship, after you leave that internship, make sure you're connected with your hiring manager. Make sure you're still staying connected. Hey, by the way, I love this summer. It was super amazing. Looking forward to more opportunities. Stay top of mind. Continue to post pictures, videos, any type of content that highlighted your work throughout the duration of your internship. Make sure you're promoting that, because that's you're promoting yourself, right? So make sure you're taking the tools taking advantage of the tools you guys have. And last but not least, make sure you guys take advantage of career services, right? Like, their little job is to help you all, right? Like, again, we all on that job. We want to make sure you come to college for a reason. So you guys are paying for this, right? So take advantage of these resources, ask questions, right? Figure out how you guys can get more involved. Take advantage of the resume tool. Super, super great. I did it on my undergrad. They're literally here to help you tweak your resume, figure out what you need. Have at least 4 versions of a resume. That way, when you have those 4, you're not always having to constantly change for each job you apply to, right? You have 1 version that's for marketing, if you have marketing background, 1 version for sales, 1 version for project management, 1 version for blah, blah, blah. If you have that experience, that way you can tailor yourself, right? I can pick resume 1 for this job, I can pick resume 3 for this one, resume 4 for that one, and you have options, all right? So, cool. But we also have food in the back, all right? So Gino's is behind you guys. We have pizza, pasta, salad, water, some soda, so you guys are able to help yourself. We'll be here to answer any other questions, but thank you guys.